Hey, everybody. Let's pick a field. We're here. Kendall Rogers, Aaron Fitt. I'm Mark Etheridge. And we just finished the last regular season games. We're heading to conference tournaments. A lot changed over this week. So I do feel like this week's field is going to be a little more challenging perhaps than last week, especially around the host, around the bubbles. You got some automatics that project differently. Lots to talk about, guys. Tell you what, let's do. Let's jump right in and pick our top 16. We're going to go pick our host sites. We're going to pick at-larges. We're going to pick the automatics. And I'll usually say at this point we're projecting, but there's not a whole lot to project left. There's only just conference tournaments. So from this point, it's pretty much where you are. You can help yourself a little bit with conference tournaments. So perhaps you can win an automatic bid, which helps yourself a lot. Yeah. But otherwise, a lot of this, what we do today is going to be really close. Minus the stolen bids that we'll talk about, that's where it ends up. So, guys.
Yeah, One thing I was going to say real quick is that's one thing I wish I would have brought up with our Teagues last week is in the era of single elimination conference tournaments, like how much does that even weight anymore? Mm-hmm. Just because it's a total crapshoot. So,
well, certainly
we'll find out.
You can only pick up one loss, where before you went 0-2, and sometimes that really hurt. Now the most you're going to get is one loss in these big conference tournaments. So I do feel like that negates some of the negative impact. If occasionally there was some. So at the top of the field, guys, I'm still feeling Texas. Anything else?
Yeah, I think it had Texas lost that series this weekend, and they had lost 3 straight series. Maybe there's an argument for someone else, but. They won a road series against a top 30 RPI team to close it out, and in emphatic fashion, they're the top seed.
Yep. So after that, we've got a few to talk about here. I think there's no slam dunk here, and I think this is still up for grabs. I'd like to talk about Arkansas. I'd like to talk about North Carolina. I'd like to talk about Vanderbilt and LSU. Those would be my next tier.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good list. Hi, everybody.
Aaron Fitt here. Welcome to the show, Aaron Fitt.
Good to be here. It's hard to parse a lot of these teams. I think I like Arkansas, but the thing is, like North Carolina at the end, if they had won the league, I think I would maybe go that way. But as it is, 7 RPI.
Yeah, the thing about North Carolina, though, Fitt, is like. They only didn't win the league potentially because they had a game canceled.
Right. I know it's
kind of hard to be like, okay, we're going to make you a 2 or a 5 based off of a cancellation.
Well, and this is another one where it's like in that league in particular, those top teams were just so jumbled, and they had some weird fluky stuff with a strange number of games canceled.
Right.
And they're heading into the last day of the season. They could have gone to anybody. And plus, on top of that, you have the unbalanced schedules. And the team that won it had the third easiest schedule in the league. It didn't play the other 3 top teams in Georgia Tech. And so, but on one hand, you've got the committee chairman came on our show last week and said that they still do very much value conference championships in the regular season. And like we kind of tried to press a little bit on, well, what about with these unbalanced schedules? And he kind of just was, struck me as like, no, we just care about the conference championship. It still matters.
I think where he drew the line though is where you play everybody. Conference schedules, conference championships matter the most.
That's
okay. And then there's less. And Kendall, if you want, go ahead and pop the sheet up. And we'll show everybody they can follow along with us if they're watching on YouTube.
Sorry, I just responding to the text.
Yeah. So I'm with you. I've got Arkansas here.
Yeah, 20-10 in the league. Number 5 RPI. Swept Texas.
They did sweep Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's higher in RPI, but they did sweep Vanderbilt on the road. Okay. Pretty loud.
So the next 3, North Carolina, Vanderbilt, LSU. Those for me are the next 3 in some order.
Yeah.
So what do we like? I do like with Vanderbilt. I love that they have 26 wins against our field from last week. That's as good as it gets. When you
North
compare
Carolina
that,
has 13. They have half as many. That's wild.
Yep. You look at the other part of this is Vanderbilt played the second toughest SEC schedule.
Yeah.
So it was harder for them to go 19-11 than it was LSU, who had the fourth, actually not that much, 14th. Yeah, 14th toughest conference schedule.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, the numbers are impressive for Vandy. I mean, Auburn's not that far behind him in record versus the field, but 26-14 against the field. Like, it's not only is it a lot of wins, but it's a really good winning percentage.
Yep.
With 40. If my math is correct, Mark, that's 40 out of their 56 games. If they got to 56, 55, 40 of their 55 games came against teams that were in our field last week. Like, that's absurd.
Yeah, you can't schedule any better than that, honestly.
Yeah,
realistically,
they got to be the next team. I mean, they could. Yeah, I guess because of the head-to-head sweep against Arkansas, I'd still lead Arkansas over them. But boy, Vandy's case, they're quietly awesome.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yep. Okay, LSU or North Carolina. Is this the part where we put in an ACC team as the kind of break it up? Or do you like LSU's resume that much more?
I mean, I think
honestly, they're pretty comparable.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. They are pretty comparable. Like, you could probably go UNC, that 11-5 Q1 and better non-conference strength of schedule. League records are about the same. They're back-to-back in the RPI.
Yeah.
And then LSU
okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So then it gets a little tricky. The next group for me is Georgia, who's our RPI #1 team. I like Oregon. I like Auburn. And I like Coastal Carolina.
Yeah.
And you could throw Oregon State in there too.
Yeah.
I would do that too.
And this is one that I want to make sure we do due diligence on with the Beavers, because, we had some Beaver fans pushing back on us last week. Like, wait a minute. Oregon State's like number 6 in your top 25, and they're number 6 in the RPI, and we got them as a 13 seed. Like, are we going out of our way to like disrespect the Beavers and not, I understand where they're coming from when you look at those things. Like, it's a head-to-head against Oregon that is hard to but like everybody has bad weekends. Just that in Oregon State's case, you have fewer chances against the top teams. Yeah. And so you've got to, now that said, they did take advantage of some of them. They have the series win against Irvine head, for instance, and Iowa on the road.
Yeah, I mean, the Oregon series is really the only negative. As a result of that, they're 2-5 against our field 1s and 2 seeds. They're beating up the 3 seeds, but it's really Oregon that's killing them.
Yeah, and again, the fact that it was not just a series, but also you tack on that midweek game at home, like right after it, like 4 in a row just feels worse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
especially since Oregon also has kind of a borderline top 8 case as well, and it just that's why Oregon State gets bumped down, despite the metrics.
Yeah, I like Oregon ahead of Oregon State just because of that. I mean,
yeah, I do too.
They're close, and it was 4 games. It's not a
I mean, the only caveat I could see if there was like heavy West Coast representation on this committee is having some sympathy for their scheduling difficulties in the off season. I mean, people forget sometimes that they had to put together the schedule in like 4 months, 5 months. They did a pretty impressive job in doing that, but still, I mean, I would have to lean Oregon. They
did a great job, and obviously playing all those road games is why they're so high.
And neutral
that,
site.
Yeah. I mean that, and the fact that they went 41-12, which is good.
That helps. Yeah, that helps.
But like they've gotten the bonus already for playing all the road games. It's baked into the RPI. That's why they're number 6. Because like the quality of the teams they've played has been solid. Certainly, I mean it's a 43 strength schedule, right? Like it's pretty good, but it's it's not like you're playing SEC meat grinders all every week, all week long. It is not the same as that.
Right.
I kind of like Georgia and then Auburn for the next 2 spots. Auburn, that 23 wins against the field's really loud to me. They've got the 2nd most wins or 3rd most wins against Quad 1, tied with Vanderbilt, by the way.
Yeah.
Which they took a series from Vanderbilt.
Really hard SEC schedule as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just they have to me they have to be a top 8 with all those different pluses.
Right. The top 2 in the RPI, I just can't see the top 2 teams in the RPI with, quality conference records too. I mean, 18 and 12, 17 and 13, you're fine. I think those are the next 2.
I mean, here would be my question. I mean, do we almost go Georgia, Auburn, LSU since LSU was swept by Auburn, or does it really matter?
You
Well,
could.
Auburn
I
was
mean,
swept by Georgia, so
Yes, I'm saying Georgia, Auburn, LSU.
yeah.
I don't know. I'm
Yes,
fine with this.
you actually, I mean, why would we have LSU ahead of those 2 teams? Like, what's the argument? I guess they're a little bit higher in the standings, but they have the much easier conference schedule.
Yeah.
What
That's a
else
good
do they
point.
have going for them? I mean, they're 7 spots lower than Georgia in the RPI, 6 behind Auburn in the RPI. Like, it kind of feels like
Yeah.
maybe
The
LSU.
non-conference, LSU did nothing in non-conference, so that doesn't help them.
Yeah. 237 non-conference strength of schedule.
Yeah,
Whereas,
I mean, who knows how a committee would sit in a room and actually rank these teams? I'm just saying, from our perspective, when you look at what's presented, it's like how would we have LSU behind those 2 teams?
what do you mean?
Like, it doesn't make a ton of sense to have LSU in front of those 2 teams.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you. So
You're winning me over.
LSU did not play Georgia, so there's no head-to-head there, and they got swept by Auburn. Yeah, and Auburn got swept by Georgia, so that's kind of makes it easy for once.
It really does, yeah. And it's by default, when in doubt, go by the RPI.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So we have 1 spot left in our top 8, and the candidates would be Oregon, Coastal, Oregon State for me.
Yeah, I think those are the right 3. So, all right, let's see how we break this down. We already talked some about Oregon State. They're the best of this trio in the RPI. Number 6, Coastal is 11. Oregon is 12.
Yeah. For me, Oregon, when you look at 17 and 3 versus the field, 6 and 1 against 1 seeds, 8 and 1
Coastal
against
just
3s.
6 and 6.
Yeah.
Against the field, Coastal.
Against the field, yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas, and we've talked about this on previous NerdCasts, but the Sun Belt being down this year has killed them.
Yeah. And there's, and that said, they've dominated it, and they're still going to be, an easy host, slam dunk host. But that probably keeps them shy of being in the top 8. Especially when you look at Oregon, I mean, 9-1 against Q1, which is more wins than Coastal has against our entire field.
Yeah. They needed to play Southern Miss this year. That series needed to happen for a lot of reasons. It'd be a lot of fun, but that would have helped both teams.
Yeah. You know what sounds like a lot of fun is having Oregon the 8 seed and Oregon State the 9 seed.
Yeah, you could probably twist our arms into that.
I lean Oregon. I just think,
the head-to-head has to matter.
The head-to-head matters. I was going to say the eyeball test, but Oregon State would pass the eyeball test too. I saw those guys earlier this year. They're really good. But I think the eyeball test would be really positive for Oregon. I mean, just a really offensive team. They've got an elite ace in Grayson Grenzel, and the metrics are there for them.
Yeah, so that would be Oregon replacing Florida State would be the only change in our top 8.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do we, Mark? Florida State can certainly still get back in the mix here. I would think, right? Yeah.
Oh, sure. They're close.
Yeah, they're down to 13th in the RPI, which isn't great for an ACC team. They finished 17 and 10 in the league. I mean, they're still in striking distance. The top of that league is just so tightly bunched. I mean, as that evidenced by the fact that we only have 1 ACC host, and even they feel kind of not like a slam dunk. North Carolina. I mean, it just feels like there's just a bunch of there's not separation at the top of that league. Doesn't feel like we have really elite teams up there.
Okay. So the next group for me, it's still Coastal is obviously still there. Florida State, UCLA,
Oregon State.
Oregon State.
We already did Oregon State. So we're doing that, huh? 8 and 9. Okay.
Yeah.
Why not? That would be fun. Dibs.
I think I like Coastal and Florida State here. My thing on Coastal is I do not like them being a top 8 at this point, but I do like them being a high seed. So you're kind of penalizing them a little bit for the fact that the field record isn't very good. They don't have a ton of high-end wins, but you're also rewarding them for just totally, like Aaron said, totally dominating that league.
Yeah, and the fact that where is Florida State here? Florida State against the field is 10-10. I mean, for an ACC team, not that much different than Coastal 6-6.
Exactly.
That said, it's 13-11 versus Q1 for Florida State, 4-6 for Coastal. So there are still some advantages for Florida State.
Yeah,
there.
I mean, we could go FSU Coastal.
Coastal, though, with a number 22 non-conference strength of schedule, FSU 132. So there's a big gap. I mean, I think I'm good with Coastal Florida State. You can go either way on that one.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I had a lot of people asking me on Twitter yesterday if I thought Florida State was dead. Far from it in terms of a top 8.
Yeah, they can certainly help themselves this week because they're within striking distance.
Yeah,
okay,
and they are. Aaron, who did they?
I think they're the 2 seed, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, let me see. So here, let me pull up Florida's road or Florida State's road real quick, since people will ask in the conference tournament. Pulling it up now. So Florida State will play the winner. So Louisville, Pitt play, and then they play the Duke, and then the winner of that game would play Florida State. So they'd probably play
Louisville or Duke, most likely.
Yeah, most likely. The percentage.
Although you never know. Pitt has a history of making some noise
frisky
in the ACC tournament.
Yeah, they're frisky. All right, sorry. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, so the next group, we have UCLA, Clemson, TCU.
Yeah.
Probably for me.
Yeah, Clemson bouncing back.
Now 18-12 in the league.
Yep. RPI is good.
Up to number 10.
Yep.
Not a great, final month for them, but they did sweep that last series at Pitt, which I think Pitt is the last place team in the league. But
yeah, that helped them.
Yep.
I mean, an ACC team with a top 10 RPIs has got to be feeling pretty good.
Sure. Yeah, I would agree. And they won a road series at Georgia Tech, who won the regular season.
I don't know if I like them here, but certainly they're within my top 16.
Yeah.
So what do we do with UCLA? RPI's at 15. They, I guess, technically won the Big Ten. That's how that played out, right?
Yeah, they shared it. But, I mean, Oregon won the head-to-head. So,
right.
I mean, to me, Oregon is the champ, personally.
Understand. Yep.
Yeah.
So 12-9 versus the field, but a lot of that is against the bottom of the field.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like a host.
Mm-hmm.
Like Clemson, I think we could put them among those last 5 spots here.
Yeah. And then TCU, that's another one I'd like to talk about. Their strength of schedule is really strong outside the league. Inside the league, it really, there was 13th out of the Big 12.
Yeah.
But
17-10 against the field.
Mm-hmm. Their other metrics are good.
Gosh,
yeah, they just finished. They just finished like mere percentage points out from winning the league title too.
Yeah, although with a very easy schedule in conference, which is interesting. Still didn't technically win the league, but compare that just real quick to Kansas with the third hardest Big 10 schedule, or Big 12 schedule, excuse me. And they actually, so they're percentage points behind West Virginia. Okay. So it is jumbled again up there at the top. West Virginia, who's lower than the RPI, had the 12th hardest conference schedule in the Big 12.
Yeah.
And kind of limped to the end.
Kansas, by the way, was swept by TCU this year.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, we saw what happened this weekend when Kansas went to West Virginia and swept them. I mean, that kind of dashed West Virginia's hopes, don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if they win the conference tournament, maybe. they win the conference tournament after having won the regular season.
They'd be right back in it.
Yeah.
The other team I would like to mention here, I mean, how about our ACC champs in Georgia Tech?
Yeah. I mean, how about them?
Again,
has an ACC champ never hosted?
The conference SOS is what, 14?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a number 20 RPI, but I mean,
6
you're
and
right,
12
though.
versus the field. It's just
12 wins against Q1 though.
Yeah.
That's 5 more than TCU and 9 more, by the way, than UCLA.
Interesting. Yeah, it feels like they probably should be in the. Gosh, I mean, it feels almost like a lazy pick though to just default. Oh, they won the ACC. They should host, but kind of feels like that's how it's going to go.
I mean, this is a great test to see how the committee feels about conference strength of schedule.
Yeah.
If they value finishing atop the standings, maybe somebody else you feel is a better team.
At least at the end, Georgia Tech got a second win against a regional team, a series win rather. They had the one against, I think, Louisville earlier. Now they go to Duke the last weekend. Like, for me, that's a big boost to the resume. For a while, I mean, that's why they were unranked. Is only one of their weekend series all year long was against anything close to a regional team.
Yeah, it's way too early for them for me.
Yeah, I mean, certainly Clemson's higher.
I would go Clemson and UCLA and TCU as my next 3.
I don't know that I would have TCU ahead of Georgia Tech, considering they also benefited from a soft conference schedule. But I guess they have the much better non-conference schedule.
Yeah, and 17 wins versus our field.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech has 6.
Yeah, 6 and 12, no less. So not only it's not like 6 and 6 like Coastal plays differently than 6 and 12. He had a lot of opportunity and did not do well against it. It's a good point. Although it's also worth noting that the committee doesn't use our record versus the field metric. So
they have their own.
It's like talking about DSR, like and we should. Let's talk about DSR while we're at it. TCU 23, Georgia Tech 19, UCLA 26, Clemson 11. Maybe Clemson is the next team. I don't really see an obvious one out of this group that I like more.
They're jumbled. Let's go with Clemson. So TCU, UCLA, you feel Georgia Tech's here. Any SEC teams you want to look at?
I mean, Ole Miss has to be looked at. I mean, Ole Miss guys, RPI's 18, DSR 17, KPI 15. They got 19 wins, which is the 4th most wins against our field.
Yeah, had the easiest conference schedule.
Yeah. 16 14 against Q1.
So if you're stacking them up with the other 16 and 14 teams in the SEC, so we've got Tennessee, Alabama, Ole Miss, all 16 and 14.
Yeah.
Bama's got the best RPI at 9, which is significantly better than 16 Tennessee or 18 Ole Miss. So I would just kind of start there. Bama against the field, 18 and 14. You're talking about Ole Miss's record against the field being a selling point, 19 and 14. It's only one game better. And Alabama's 9 spots higher in the RPI. For me, I think Alabama would be the 16 and 14 team that I like their chances the most.
Well, they're going to play Missouri in the opener, and Missouri held their pitching. They're going to throw Sam Horn and Will Libbert on Tuesday. So that against what likely will be a midweek pitcher for Alabama. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like what Ole Miss did in conference a little bit better than Alabama.
So that said, Alabama's conference strength of schedule was 11th, and Ole Miss
last.
So
yeah. So here are the high points for Alabama.
Georgia.
Series. Yeah,
That's really
series
it.
win over Oklahoma, which, I mean, it's fine. And a series win over Georgia. That's
Yeah.
it.
At A&M, which at times looked like a good weekend. They swept A&M, but A&M wound up.
Ole Miss, 2-1 opening weekend, did run roll Clemson. They took a series from Florida, which Alabama did not do. Granted, that was on the road. Series win at Kentucky. Series win over Vanderbilt. And a series win over Auburn. I mean, I think that's better.
It's better weekend series wins. Alabama also has Jack's Baseball Classic, which I think 3-0, beat Coastal and NC State.
Yeah,
that's pretty loud. That's
Yeah.
kind of cancels out the Ole
they're
Miss
very
first
similar.
weekend.
So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
kind of like what Aaron said. If they're very similar by default, maybe you just go with RPI.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
So-
more with you, Kendall. Like I like conference wins, or I mean series wins. You know me, big series wins guy. Alabama's biggest selling point is they didn't get swept, right? Like
Right.
it's a lot of losing 2 out of 3 to good teams.
And they didn't lose in midweek, so that's why the RPI is higher. They have no bad losses.
Yeah, and they play,
Yeah.
some decent midweek wins too, like at Troy versus Southern Miss. Samford's respectable. They beat them a couple times, I think. Another win against Troy. They're 2-0 against Troy. So yeah, I mean, they actually they did a pretty good job in the non-conference.
Can I vouch for another team that I think will end up being a top 16?
Florida.
Southern Miss.
Yeah.
7-4 against quad 1, 10-4 against the field. They, just kind of like Coastal, they dominated the conference. Unfortunately, they did not play. And they also have a AD on the committee. I mean, they're within. I mean, I think they need to play. I think they're going to have to make a run in the conference tournament. Like, I don't think they can go 1-2 and host in Montgomery. But I think if they win 2 or 3 games there, they're going to host.
They've won 15 in a row.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, they're sizzling hot. Non-conference schedules 19. They've got a series win on the road at TCU. I mean,
yeah, I see
a
them.
lot of pluses there from the Golden Eagles.
I see them similarly to how I view Florida, and I would not project Florida to host right now. But no one in the country is playing better than Florida right now. Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, the first part of the season absolutely happened, and they're going to be penalized for that. But right now, with all those injuries, how they keep winning games is really it's unbelievable. And if they go in, they've got South Carolina, they've got Ole Miss. I mean, it's going to set up for them potentially to keep playing. And this 15-15 team, we could be looking up on Saturday, and they're one of the teams still standing. Now, not ready to project that yet. I would not have them on here, but I'm not going to be surprised if that happens.
Now, going back to Southern Miss, though, like they didn't have a crappy first half to overcome. They've been good all year.
Their RPI was terrible to start with. Remember, we were having these discussions at midseason. It was like 40-something, and it was just terrible, and it just kept climbing. Right?
They shouldn't have played 4 games against Mike Rooney's Pards to start the year.
Yeah.
Rooney, you screwed Southern Miss. That's you can find him on Twitter, folks, at Mike_Rooney. Let them know how you feel about ruining your hosting chances.
Right. The 5 Q4 losses hurt, and that's dragging things down.
All that said, a road series win at TCU, who's another kind of like borderline-ish host team, that speaks to me. The 15-game winning streak speaks to me.
Yep.
Sweeping Troy on the road to finish. Those are, I guess, those are the selling points, right? Because there's not really another series win against a regional team.
Yeah, the tournament's going to be big for them.
I'm intent to schedule La Tech and Wilmington also, plus the Pards. I mean, like you schedule all those teams, you expect them to be good, and Wilmington and La Tech, they're fine. I mean, they wound up being like top 100-ish RPI teams, but like not as good as they usually are.
Yeah.
Well, they won both those series.
Yeah, I'm with you. I kind of see a path for them to get there. Not at 13, but certainly one of these last 4 spots. I'd be comfortable projecting that.
I mean, I almost wonder if I mean, them versus TCU, like if it comes down to, plus you got committee representation and you've got the head-to-head series win in Fort Worth. And there's TCU's 4 spots better than the RPI. Okay. But Southern Miss is 115 in a row. So there's, I think you can kind of talk yourself into Southern Miss being higher in the pecking order than TCU. TCU has some other metrics that are better. Record against the field, 19-4 versus 10-4.
I've got them both in.
Okay. I like that. All right. So let's agree on some teams here for these last 4 spots, and then we can order them. TCU and Southern Miss. It sounds like we both, and I think Kendall's also there.
Yep.
I mean, I kind of think Georgia Tech, most likely as a regular season champion, and the ACC will be in one of these 4.
I would agree.
UCLA.
Yeah, you got UCLA or Alabama, Ole Miss, somebody from that SEC cluster. I think UCLA makes sense as a West Coast team with 15 RPI that kind of co-champ in their league. So maybe UCLA is the next team, even. Feels like the kind of safest bet here.
Yeah,
I agree.
Then you could go. I mean, I might go Georgia Tech, Southern Miss, TCU, or what were you going to say?
I was going to say I like Georgia Tech least out of these.
Okay.
Yeah, I like Georgia Tech actually as a 16 seed.
Yeah, that's fine. Throw them a bone for winning the conference regular season championship, but you're on notice. Got to do some this week. It's not a lock.
And Southern Miss over TCU because of the head-to-head.
Yep.
I think so.
Yeah, and I kind of have a feeling too. I mean, you never know with conference tournaments, but I have a feeling they're going to roll through that thing with the way they're playing.
They're playing really well.
They really, really might.
So that's our 16. I'll recap them. Texas, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, North Carolina, Georgia, Auburn, LSU, Oregon. That's our top 8. Oregon State, Coastal Carolina, Florida State, Clemson, UCLA, Southern Miss, TCU, Georgia Tech. Just missing would be Alabama, Ole Miss, Dallas Baptist, Kansas. That's probably the next group.
Yeah.
So all of those teams, those also considered are still in play. They have a good week, or if they have a better week than some of these teams that are just barely ahead of them, they could certainly pass them.
Yeah. So the changes, we've got Georgia Tech in, Southern Miss in, Clemson back in.
Yep.
Replacing West Virginia, NC State.
NC State and Alabama.
NC State just kind of tumbling right back, kind of just out of the mix after after losing a home series to Stanford. Gosh, where are they in the RPI now?
35.
Yeesh, goodness.
Yeah, I do think it does make sense if you're the committee on those 2 SEC teams like Ole Miss and Alabama that had bad interconference strength of schedules. I do think it makes sense just to kick both of them out for now. See if one of them goes on a run in Hoover.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think each have work to do.
Yeah, that's fair.
And Ole Miss is going to drop Florida. And if you beat Florida, yeah, I've taken notice. And Alabama's going to play Tennessee, assuming they can get by Missouri. So those are good opportunities for wins.
Yeah, Missouri's giving up like 95 runs a weekend. So,
but not with Horn and Libert the way they've thrown. So yeah. It's an interesting strategy. All right, so now that we have our top 16, these would be projected all to host. Now we'll go conference by conference and pick our automatics and our at-large candidates. Then when we get to the end of the field, we'll see how many teams we have for the few spots that are left and make some hard decisions. All right, Fitty, I'll turn it over to you.
Hey, thanks, Marcus. We'll start in the America East, where your Bryant Bulldogs won the league by 4 games. They remain the pick. It's nice to see the Bryan Athletic Conference is back. It's just
Yeah.
relocated.
Missed
Moved
it.
down the street.
Mhm.
No longer the NEC. It's now the AEC. All right. American Athletic Conference, easy one, UTSA. One bid league, unless they get knocked off in the conference tournament, in which case it would be a two-bid league because they are a slam
They're in.
dunk.
Stolen bid alert.
Yeah. And this team could
Bubble
have been
teams,
hosting.
pull for them.
Could have been in the hosting mix if they had submitted a bid, as we've talked about. Won it by 5 games over Charlotte. East Carolina, by the way, brace yourselves for this, guys. East Carolina finished 10 games out of first place.
Imagine if somebody would have told you that in January.
10 games back, tied for 5th. Wow. 8-10. Rhode Island guys, regular season champs, 22-8.
Rams
beat out GMU by 2 games. They remain the pick. Not an at-large team, but boy, they got up to 76th in the RPI. Like they're, not that far out, but they won't be an at-large team. So.
Yeah, they gave way back in February, they gave Oregon all they could handle in the first 2 games. Actually won the first game of this series.
That's right. ACC, we've got, let's see, Florida State, North Carolina, Georgia Tech, and Clemson as hosts. We got NC State in. We've got Duke, Wake Forest, Miami still in, 31 RPI, 15-14. Louisville still in, 15-15, 29 RPI. Then you got the bubble teams here. Virginia did, in fact, win their last series at Virginia Tech to finish 16-11. They're 56th in the RPI. We had them in by a nose last week, in part because we were projecting them to win this series in Blacksburg, which they did. RPI still not quite where you want to be for an ACC team, but we think there's some leeway there given the Tallahassee series getting canceled.
Yeah, they're certainly on the board heading into the tournament. I think there's a great shot for them to make it.
At 16-11 is loud, even though the softest, I think, or second softest, maybe not conference schedule. Nonetheless, 16-11 the ACC. And unlike Louisville last year, they're inside the top 60 in the RPI.
Right.
So, Notre Dame.
Need to talk about them.
They're now 14-16 in the league after taking 2 out of 3 at Miami. Kind of thought if they won that series, they would play their way in. After starting conference play by losing their first 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 series, I think. They finished by winning their last 4 at Stanford versus Cal versus Louisville at Miami. So they got 16, and their RPI is up to number 40.
They're absolutely on the board. We'll see if there's room.
Yep.
Yeah. An ACC team with a 40 playing so well down the stretch, that's a candidate.
How do we stack them up against Virginia? Virginia, which still has a considerably better conference record, but is 15 spots slower in the RPI. It's a weird one.
Well, when you look at that, we all feel like, I'm speaking for you guys, but we all feel like Virginia is a better team, right?
Yes.
Kendall?
But yes, totally agree.
Okay. So I think when you recall what Jay told us, it's to pick the best teams.
Yeah, true.
And there's a mix between best and most deserving, but it's the goal that they're given is to pick the best, and that's where I come down on these kind of things.
UVA did have a couple of marquee series wins down the stretch. They have some stinkers for sure, but marquee series wins down the stretch, sweeping Miami and taking 2 out of 3 at Georgia Tech were the kind of the 2 highlights for them down the stretch. And obviously they won the series against a Virginia Tech team that's just packed it in at this point on the road, though.
Take them off.
Yeah.
There may be room for both. We'll see.
Yep, there very well may be. It's going to be interesting. Let's go to the A-Sun.
Yeah, there's something that's interesting real quick, by the way, is both Virginia and Notre Dame are 4 games under 500 against the field. Exactly the same number.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or percentage.
That's interesting. And I don't know if I skipped over Duke or not, but Duke also in comfortably with 17-13 conference record, 32 RPI. Wake Forest, did I say? I can't remember. Anyway, it's the usual suspects. It's Notre Dame and Virginia are the bubble teams. A-Sun. All right. So we've got, once again, I mean, it's going to be a one-bid league, even though these two teams at the top, Stetson and Austin P, just keep on keeping on.
Yep.
So where do we stand here with I know they've got it's an interesting format for this tournament.
Yeah, I was talking to Roland Fanning last week, and it sounds like they would play they could potentially play on Friday without being the championship game. So it's a very bizarre format. But yeah, it looks like they probably will play.
Are they doing the deal where they seed it by RPI?
No, not this year. They changed it.
Okay.
Hold on. I just read about this. It's hard to keep track. This league tries the funkiest things, but
I feel like they're overthinking conference tournaments here.
Let's see. I can't find it. Anyway, yeah, they put a lot of thought into it. But Austin P kept on winning. They swept the series at Lipscomb this weekend. Stetson actually lost the series to Florida Gulf Coast. At this point, I mean,
yeah, I'm okay with the Govs.
I think I'm okay with making that change. We finally have a reason to remove Stetson. I mean, they're both good, but we'll make that change. Austin P. replaces Stetson. Ultimately, even though both these teams had great years, RPIs are still not going to be there for at large. Austin P's 84, Stetson 70.
Yeah. Would not want to see Austin P as my 4, though. I can tell you that.
No. Or Stetson.
Yep.
All right, Big 12. We've got TCU in as a host. We've got Kansas, West Virginia. Arizona's at 37 RPI. They're in 18-12.
Mm-hmm.
Arizona State guys didn't have a great weekend. Got swept in Stillwater. Still 18-12. 46 RPI. Probably still in, but don't lay an egg in the conference tournament. Kansas State 17-13, 33 RPI. They'd be safer than Arizona State at this point.
Might be a 2 seed.
Yeah. You got Cincinnati finished at 16-14 after taking 2 out of 3 from Kansas State. They're 35 in the RPI, just one game behind K-State in the standings and have the head-to-head. So,
I think Cincinnati's in really good shape. I mean, they've got those series wins you mentioned, and let's also not forget they won granted this opening weekend, but it still matters. Won a series opening series at Duke.
Yeah, and weekend where the warmer weather team would have, you would think, the advantage.
Yeah, they got the head-to-head over Arizona State, and they also have 12 wins against the field, which is pretty good for a published team.
Mm-hmm.
They're a lock, I think, at this point for me. Even probably higher in my pecking order than Kansas State. So if K-State we're talking about is maybe a 2 seed, then Cincinnati could be maybe a 2 seed. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then we got Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden they're 15-12. RPI up to 45. It's still just 27-22 overall, but moving on up on the board.
Yeah. It could be one of those, it could be one of those situations we talk about conference tournaments and what they mean. It could be one of those situations to where, let's just say they make a run to Friday or Saturday and Arizona State goes 2 in Q. They could be taking Arizona State's spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd say at this point, Oklahoma State and Arizona State feel like the bubble teams more than K-State and Cincinnati.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
What was Arizona State's intra-conference through the schedule? Do we have that on here?
Yeah.
Let's see.
9th.
Okay. Interesting.
Oak State's the 7th.
Okay. Yeah. Arizona State's non-conference wasn't terrible. The one thing that really hurt them is, who would have thought that Ohio State would have an RPI of 224 And then Gonzaga, who's typically always pretty good. I mean, they're a game over 500, but typically, they're an okay RPI team, and they're 140. So that really hurt them in non-conference.
Yeah.
All right. Well, those are the teams.
Yep. All right. So we'll add Oklahoma State to the board here as well.
Yep.
Go to the Big East, where we've got co-champions Creighton and UConn. As Creighton did, in fact, do what it needed to do, swept its road series at Georgetown, and they have the head-to-head series win against UConn. So they both finished 17-4. I mean, UConn remains blazing hot here. They didn't do anything bad this weekend, except they didn't have anyone else to play in conference. They played Maine instead and swept them. Gosh,
who's the auto?
Red hot. I mean, I can't bet against UConn. I know that the head-to-head series lost to Creighton, but the way UConn's playing right now, I can't bet against them. Can you?
No.
But Creighton would be a team that is, I think, on the board, right? With a 50 RPI. I mean, co-champion in the league.
Yeah, I think Creighton and Xavier are on the board.
Yeah. Last week we did have Xavier in. And they finished 39th in the RPI, so they're stronger in the RPI than Creighton by 11 spots, but they're 3 games behind Creighton in the standings, and they lost the head-to-head 2 out of 3 in Omaha. So, I mean, it's a very fascinating case because Creighton's got no games against Q1, 0-0, because they played those 2 opponents at home, so they didn't count as Q1 games. That when I'm saying they played UConn and Xavier at home, and so they didn't count as Q1 games. But Xavier 5-12 against Q1. It's a lot of games. It's not a great winning percentage. What about some other metrics here? Just out of, we can come back to this later, but I just want to get like a pecking order for Xavier versus Creighton because I don't think it's clear cut. It kind of feels to me like it should be Creighton based on head to head and winning the league by 3 games over them. Yeah. But then you have
and remember Jay specifically mentioned Creighton the other day in our podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they had the head-to-head over Connecticut and Xavier,
right? Which is loud to me.
That's got to put them ahead of Xavier.
So Creighton, though, I mean, just to kind of play it all out here, 207 non-conference strength of schedule. Xavier 5.
Yeah.
207 versus 5 is loud.
Yeah.
But did Xavier win enough of those non-conference games?
Yeah. They're one of those teams, you love their schedule, but that's really the kind of the highlight.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have enough wins to back up your schedule.
I think ultimately that's where it's going to fall. I think if Creighton hadn't won the regular season title, that probably would have helped Xavier. Because now Creighton has that regular season title to go with the head-to-head advantage over the other 2 good teams in the league. Kind of negates the RPI disadvantage for me. So if I were ordering them, I would go UConn, Creighton, Xavier.
Okay.
Same.
Right now we can leave all 3 on the board, but I'm pretty sure we're not going to have room for 3 Big East.
Right.
Let's go to the Big South. USC Upstate winds up winning this league. We've had High Point as the team like all year long. Upstate sweeps UNC Asheville on the road at the end of the year. They also have a road series win at High Point. I think we got to make that change, boys.
All right.
High Point, by the way, in the last weekend there, lost 2 out of 3 at the Throp. So Mike McGuire doing stuff to help his old buddies at Spartanburg win the conference tournament or the regular season rather. All right, so we've got USC Upstate. On to the Big Ten. We got Oregon. We got UCLA. We got USC. Guys, that's all I see right now. Iowa gets swept at home by the Ducks. They're done. They are, as Kendall Rogers would say, dunzo. Did not win the league. Finished 74th in the RPI. Didn't beat any good teams, really. I mean, they played finally some good teams late in the year, and they just couldn't get it done. I mean, 0-5-1 against Oregon State and Oregon. Lost the series at Washington.
Yeah.
Those are the last 3 weekends. They're done. Take them off the board.
Yeah, it's just another poster child for the unbalanced schedules, right? And it's not their fault. You don't get to choose that part, but if you're on the bubble, it doesn't give you any wiggle room at all.
Yeah, and also, I mean, look, if we understand your limitations with geography for your midweeks, but that means you really got to make your early weekends count. And I know that's hard as a cold weather team. You have disadvantages, but Washington State also has disadvantages with the weather. And you played those guys and lost 3 out of 4, in February, March. So like, you just plain didn't get it done. I mean, it's too bad for them. I like their team. I know Coach Rooney loves their team, but they got to win the conference tournament. So then you got USC finished 18-12 with a 41 RPI. Still like where they're at. You've got Washington. It just feels like they didn't quite get there. I mean, still just 67 in the RPI. They did go 17-13 in the league. They won 2 out of 3 the last weekend against USC at home. Mm-hmm. So it complicates things. But I mean, that RPI gap is like 25 spots between them and USC.
Yeah.
And you got Michigan.
Yeah, they've got work to do in the tournament.
I think a lot of work to do. 2-12 versus Q1 is Washington. Mm-hmm. USC 5-6.
Man, could be a fifth rated conference RPI. Could be a 3-bid league.
Yeah, you got Michigan too. 16-14 in conference, 62 RPI. Actually, that's kind of the same as Indiana's now. 16-14 with a 63 RPI. They're back to back there, but Indiana took 2 out of 3 this weekend against Michigan, so they kind of caught Michigan here. Right now, it feels like all these teams are just out. But on the radar heading into the conference tournament, it doesn't really feel like any of these teams is likely to get an at-large bid, even if they make a deep run. Like, it kind of feels like it's auto for these teams, but you never know. But I mean, it's one thing if you finish higher in the standings and your RPI is in the 60s. I think that's an easier sell. Even if they play their way into the, let's say, 50 to 55 range in the RPI. Like, I don't know, as the tied for 6th place teams in the league, not sure I see that.
Yeah, their RPI is going to have to jump up a lot.
Yeah, inside the top 50. I think if you get up into the 40s, then we can have a different conversation.
Yeah.
So right now, I think it's 3 bids for the Big Ten, barring a number of things that could happen. Somebody else winning the conference tournament could certainly happen, which would make it a 4-bid league. All right, let's go to the Big West. It's I think we wound up cutting Cal Poly last week.
We did.
And so it was a 1-bid league. We had Irvine, and that's all. And I think it's probably the same. Now, situation for Cal Poly is similar. They did sweep their last series against Riverside. So they kind of held their ground in the RPI, 43. It's just, as we've talked about a lot last week, it's just a lack of quality.
2-10 against the field.
Yeah. It's a tough evaluate. Yeah.
And also against 2-10 against Q1. So they finished 2nd place, just a game behind Irvine in the end. Irvine did not have a great weekend there, boys. Lost 2 out of 3.
Cal Poly for me is basically the Xavier of the West Coast.
Yep.
That's what they are. They scheduled great in non-conference for the most part with A&M and UCLA and Oregon State, and then just haven't won a high-level series. Right.
And I think Xavier probably had a little better success against its schedule. I mean, Xavier at least won a series at a Liberty team that has been frisky this year. They won a game against Indiana and surprised the first weekend. They won 2 out of 4 at Stanford. So, again, Stanford didn't have a great year, but still, I mean, they did more stuff. And also Xavier has the series win against UConn in conference too. So I think there's just a lot more meat on the bone for Xavier than there's for Poly.
Agreed.
So we'll leave Poly out. 1-bid league. That weekend really crushed Irvine's hosting chances, losing 2 out of 3 at home to Fullerton. I thought they were right in it, but now they still won the league. RPI 24. I don't think it's going to happen for them. CAA, Gosh, why didn't Northeastern submit a bid? Maybe they did. I don't think so. To host
24 straight wins.
Can we find a venue? I mean, maybe not on campus, but there's plenty of baseball parks in Massachusetts. Find somewhere to host. Come on, boys. 24 in a row. They went 45-9 in the regular season, 25-2 in the CAA to win it by 6 games. Your boy Fitt was just a year early on the Huskies. All in on these guys last year. Picked Charleston to win the league this year. Come on, Fitt. Tough scene.
By the way, just for grins, there's no one playing at Fenway Park that weekend.
Come on. Is it too late to get that bid in?
I mean, hey, maybe they did submit a bid. You know what? I'll find out.
We should probably confirm that, but I would be surprised. Very surprised.
Fitt calls dibs on the Fenway Park Regional.
Sure, yeah. Heck, well, we probably could send our man Bradley, homecoming for him. All right, on to Conference USA. DBU, of course. And then what to do with WKU? They were out, they were in, they were out, they were in. Right now they are, they lost 2 or 3 to Jacksonville State at home this weekend.
Yep.
That puts them at 48 in the RPI,
Right.
3 games behind DBU. Still on the bubble. Feels like maybe back on the wrong side of the bubble when it's said and done, but
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I think they're with Cal Poly.
okay.
Yeah, 4-3 against the field, by the way. But that can't be. Is that right? 285 non-conference strength of schedule. Oof.
Yeah, that's
That typically is not treated very well by the committee.
We've talked about that all year. That's been the real blemish for them.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think you're right. They're out. We'll go ahead and cut them. To the Wright State Athletic League, Wright State, if you can believe it, wins the Horizon.
Shocker.
By 7 games over.
I like how you got tongue
Fighting
twisted
Norse.
on that, as if it wasn't just already like in a script.
Well, I just, there's a lot going on. Let's go on to the Ivy. Where do we stand here? I know our guy Shotgun was covering this.
I want to say, hold on. They had just started playing this morning. Let's see what we got here.
Yeah, it's really the top of the 6th. Sorry, top of the 6th between Yale and Harvard as we record. Harvard's up 5-4, I think. So,
is that the championship game?
I don't know.
Let me look real quick. I don't think it is. No, because Harvard's playing who?
Yale.
Okay, so Columbia is the one who's undefeated. So no, that's not the championship game.
There you go.
So Columbia would be the pick because they have to lose twice.
They're in the Catbird seat. Catbird. When did they finish up this thing? This would be tonight, or no? Because if somebody beats Columbia tonight, then they would finish tomorrow. It's like a region. Yeah. So yeah, Columbia will face the Harvard Yale winner, as I understand it.
Afternoon,
right later today. So by the time you're listening to this,
you'll know.
You might not know because we're going to post. I think we're going to post this tonight. But anyway, let's go with Columbia as our projected team. Onward to the MAC. We also have Oregon State as an independent. I think we skipped that one. They're in, guys. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
They had a lot of competition in that division.
Yeah. So we had Fairfield, I think, for pretty much most of the year, maybe all year, is our team. The Bronx boys. The Bronx get it done.
Well, I warned you guys last week that you don't walk into Sonny Pitaro Field and push the Bronx around.
Yeah. So they had a 2 games, I guess a weather-shortened 2-game series this weekend, and Ryder won both. So we will make Ryder our projected AQ, make that change.
And by the way, kudos to the Bronx. They actually won that series and won that league on a walk-off 3-run home run.
Nice.
I actually had a Ryder fan tag me on Twitter with the video of the walk-off. It's pretty cool, so I appreciate him sending me that.
Yeah. Good stuff there. Okay. To the Mid-American Conference, we have a tie at the top with Kent State and Miami, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, yes, Miami won the head-to-head 2 out of 3.
Yeah, I'm okay with Miami. Higher RPI.
Miami
Nothing
also
to
finished with a nice series win at Ball State on the road to finish the year. So that's kind of loud to me. Let's make that change. Redhawks back in.
Yeah. And how about the random early May series that Miami, Ohio had at Samford? It's very random.
Split those 2 games, by the way.
Yep.
Okay, so Miami. Onward to the Missouri Valley. Racers and Bears finished tied at the top, 17-8. They played 1 game this weekend. The rest was canceled. Murray State won that 1 game in a rout. Run rule shortened.
Yeah.
16-5. And this was at Murray State. So I'm going to give Murray State.
I like Murray State here. I think, they've been sizzling hot down the stretch.
And we kind of just, kept sticking with Missouri State, and maybe we're just wrong. Maybe Murray State.
Yeah. Let's put the Racers.
All right, Mountain West. We had Nevada, and Nevada did win the regular season by a game over Fresno, 2 games over New Mexico. I say we stick, boys, with the Wolf Pack.
Yep.
Nevada took 2 out of 3 at San Jose this weekend. Northeast Conference. We had Central Connecticut, again, pretty much all year, maybe all year. Long Island takes 2 out of 3 at Stonehill this weekend and wins the league by a game over Central Connecticut, who lost 2 out of 3 against the Dolphins of Lemoyne on the road. Lemoyne 293 in the RPI. Not a great series loss there. It's going to hurt their at-large chances, boys.
Yeah. Plummeting.
You got to watch out for those Dolphins in upstate New York, man. They're all over the place.
They are. There is a head-to-head here. Central Connecticut won 2 out of 3 at LIU back in early March. But it's been a while, and it feels like LIU is trending better at the moment and won the league. So I say we make that change. Long Island also, again, was in a regional last year and played well in that regional. Gave North Carolina all they could handle.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of changes here at the buzzer, guys. This is exciting. All right. Ohio Valley Conference. This one has been just a merry-go-round.
Yeah. I think we're going to have a change here, by the way.
Eastern Illinois winds up by percentage points winning the league over SIUE.
And they swept Tennessee Tech.
They swept Tennessee Tech, and they won 2 out of 3 on the road at SIUE. So
yeah, let's go Panthers.
The Panthers, another place in the country that's notorious for its Panther population, is Eastern Illinois.
Yeah.
A lot of Panthers.
Sipe tells me there's a lot of Panthers up there. So
yeah. So Eastern Illinois replaces Tennessee Tech. Okay. And we go to, where are we? Patriot League. All right. So the Patriot League Championship is underway at Fitt and Field, Worcester, Mass. As we record, it's 5-0 Holy Cross against Kendall Rogers' Army Black Knights in the top of the 3rd.
5-0. Come on, 5-0
guys. In game 1.
Do better for our country. Let's go.
Yeah. This is a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday series. So a little ways to go yet, but we can stick with the Crusaders, the regular season champs, by 3 games, mind you. Yep. All right, on to the SEC. Here we go. Just quickly through the no-brainers: Texas, Arkansas, LSU, Vanderbilt, Georgia, Auburn, Tennessee, Alabama, Ole Miss, Florida. Mississippi State finishes 15-15 after sweeping Mizzou, 30 RPI. They're now a lock. Amazingly, Oklahoma, 14-16, 27 RPI. Still think they're perfectly safe. Kentucky, 13-17, 36th in the RPI after getting swept on the road at Vanderbilt. But just last week, they swept Oklahoma at home. And before that, they were swept at Mississippi State. So feast or famine last 3 weeks for the
hard team to
Wildcats.
figure.
Yeah. They also have a series win at Tennessee, as we've talked about. I mean, I still have them in.
Yeah,
But like at this point, they're. I mean, it is bubble, right? 13-17. You know, it ain't a lock.
Right. I mean, they need the bubble to go smoothly.
Yeah. And of
Or
course,
win
A&M.
games. You know, they can also win their way in. Probably one more does it.
Yeah, probably. I would say so.
They play Oklahoma, who they just swept.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, you go 4-0 against Oklahoma. They probably just move ahead of Oklahoma in the pecking order.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I still don't think Oklahoma would be out though, right? After 14-16 with a top 30 RPI. So
No.
that's just kind of the path for 13 wins, 13 bids rather. A&M just playing out right now, 11-19, 54 RPI. It's going to take.
I think they're going to have to win the tournament. I mean,
You might be right.
maybe if you. So how many games they would win? What, one?
It takes 4 to get to the final if you're playing the first day, which they are.
Yeah.
They're just not consistent enough to win 4 in a row.
No, especially with Sorrell out for this week.
And then maybe the RPI would be into a point where you could, if you got to the final, maybe it makes it interesting, but I kind of doubt it.
Yeah, that's
and I would argue too, with the way they played the last couple of weeks, they don't really deserve to be in.
No,
not as an at-large.
Right.
All right, let's go to SoCon. East Tennessee State, 14-7, does win the league. 47 RPI. Again, a team that could be be an at-large team if they don't win the conference tournament. Like, they're on the board.
Yep.
We don't really need to go into their metrics right now since we're just projecting them as the auto bid, but just a quick glance at it. It's just 1-1 against the field, 1-2 against Q1. 6-6 against Qs 1 and 2. So those are kind of your. I know they had the win against Tennessee. They gave Tennessee their first loss of the year, if I recall. Which nice little signature for them. But interesting that their RPI is so robust with not that many high end games. But anyway, is it a good road record? What's the key to that? Here it is. 13-7 on the road. That helps.
Yeah.
Okay. Southland, always tricky. So, Kendall, you were saying, sorry, we talked about this. Southeastern Louisiana and UTRGV are both out.
They are both out
of the conference tournament. Yeah.
Conference tournament. Those are the two teams that finished tied atop the standings. We had both in last week.
Yeah. Houston Christian won one side of the bracket.
And New Orleans on the other.
So we're going to have a quote-unquote stolen bid here. The question is, do they just steal it from Southland and make it a one-bid league? At this point, it's a fascinating question because Southeastern does have the head-to-head series win against UTRGV, but Southeastern's 55th in the RPI. UTRGV is 42.
Yeah, I just think it's an incredibly difficult sell for a team with a 55 RPI in the Southland to get in the tournament, isn't it?
Don't see it.
They didn't even play for the conference tournament championship.
Yeah, agree. And so, listen, we'll see how the process works now. This is a great test because if they get in, we will know why. Yep. And I'm not going to go ahead and, criticize anybody until that happens. But again, their AD chairs the selection committee, and he's a very good guy, an honorable guy. We like him, okay? But if they get in, they just plain should not get in at this point. They just plain.
Then the metrics don't support it.
My other thing with Southeastern is if your RPI is 55, there's got to be something that you have that can not cancel it out, but that can at least diminish that to a degree. And their non-conference feature schedule is 258.
Yeah,
which is why their RPI is so low.
Yeah. So
should we go Houston Christian as our AQ, they
That
finished
makes sense.
5 games better than New Orleans in the standings. Not
Yeah.
that apparently means
HCU is
anything.
good. Sounds like a good 4 for Austin.
Yep. And then UTRGV leave on the board here with a 42 RPI and a co-regular season championship, or do you think they're done too?
I think they're in the mix.
Yeah, in the mix. 42 RPI, 2-6 Q1.
2-6 against the field.
Yeah, what else do they have going for them?
62 non-conference schedule, which isn't bad.
Yeah.
80 overall.
Yeah. It feels like it's going to be light, but we'll see.
9-11 against Qs 1 and 2. So they've got some 7-5 against Q2, which is something. But yeah. And they won the series against McNeese, if I recall, right? Like that's kind of the. Did they play Lamar? They must have.
I think they either swept them or won the series. They played that in the Valley.
Oh yes, they did. They swept. It was early. They swept them. So, a couple other good series wins in conference. All right, we'll leave them on the board and we'll come back to it. To the SWAC, where let's see, their conference tournament starts Wednesday. Top seed is Bethune-Cookman.
Yep.
I think we stick with Bethune-Cookman. Rattlers, though, went 24-6 in the league, just a half game behind Bethune-Cookman. So Florida A&M, keep an eye on them as well. And Alabama State, dangerous. Guys, how about Arkansas Pine Bluff? My goodness, after just a miserable start, they finished 4th at 17-9. Incredible. And apparently, just talking with Logan Stout about it a little bit, they had a bunch of guys out. Were injured, and I think maybe even a couple ineligible guys that, as those losses piled up early. I mean, they started the year 1 and gosh, I can't even count all these L's. 1 and a lot. And then they just really, really played well in the second half. So
who had a pretty good feeling about these guys in our fantasy game preseason?
You nailed them, right? You took those guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Summit League. Oral Roberts winds up tying St. Thomas for the regular season title. Of course, St. Thomas not eligible for an at-large spot, still transitioning to Division I. So Oral Roberts remains the pick here. 7 games ahead of North Dakota State, by the way, who's in 3rd place. Sun Belt. Same old. I mean, I still. So you got Coastal and Southern Miss already in as hosts. Troy finishes 18-12 with a 44 RPI. Now that's 8 games behind Coastal, 3rd place team in the league. I still think right now they're in. I mean, this was their first series loss of the year, and the RPI remains in the top 45. Yeah.
I still like them in. I would say this though: if they play like garbage in the conference tournament, I could see them being left out.
They're vulnerable. Right. Yeah,
they're vulnerable. They're getting swept at home this weekend. I really thought they needed to win a game to kind of solidify. Yeah. Don't get swept, and they did get swept. So that puts them in a tricky spot.
Yeah. By the way, while we're looking at the Sun Belt, it's been a tough year for the league, but I did want to point out that Greg Bills at Marshall. For Marshall to finish 16-14, that league's pretty impressive, I think. And also Mike Silva at Arkansas State, he kind of worked wonders at Nicholls State, to say the least. And Arkansas State was picked to finish last in that conference. They finished 7th in the regular season. So the Red Wolves are improving rapidly under Mike Silva.
Good coaches, both those guys doing really good jobs. Impressive work there. All right, and then we got the West Coast Conference. Toreros win it by 4 games. They're almost back to 500 overall after that crazy deep hole they had early in the year. 25-28 now, 19-5 in the league. They remain the pick. And the WAC. We had Sac State, who winds up tying Abilene Christian atop the league. Sac State loses 2 out of 3 at home against Utah Tech in the final week. The Wildcats of Abilene Christian take 2 out of 3 at Cal Baptist. And Sac State, however, swept Abilene in the regular season. I would stick with Sac State.
Okay.
So that gives us 2 to trim. That's it.
That's it. We kind of trimmed some as we went.
Yeah, we did. But like
Mhm.
Western Kentucky, I know we trimmed as we went. Iowa, obviously. Those are the
Right.
two that are already out from last week. So we've added a few here to consider. Notre Dame being one, Oklahoma State being one. We put Creighton back in there to consider.
Yeah. I kind of think Notre Dame's a little light still, personally,
I don't know about that.
with a losing record in that conference.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the ACC. Like 14 and
Right.
16 with a 40 RPI usually equals in. It's not like automatic, but
Yeah.
like stack that up against, some of these others that don't really have much meat on the bone that we're talking about. I don't know. Like, is
So
that really? Go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna kind of put a little structure in here. So who do we want? Who are we feel are vulnerable here? Creighton, Xavier,
UTRGV.
UTRGV.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I
Are
mean,
those our
where do
bottom
we
three? Notre Dame.
where
You
where do
wanna
we stand on
consider them?
Oklahoma State? I guess we think they're
I think
probably
I think they're in right now.
okay.
I would like them ahead of those teams.
Yeah, I think so. That's fair. Gosh, 27 and 22 overall. Just like sticks in my craw, but I get it. At least they had some things that again, sweeping Arizona State. Looking at it, let me just quickly go through ASU's resume because I don't think we talked about it much earlier. The high ends are sweeping Arizona State, sweeping Kansas State, both at home. They had wins against A&M and Mississippi State in Houston early on.
Mm-hmm.
They had a single win against Louisville, but lost to Clemson and Texas. So their non-conference strength schedule I don't know if what do the metrics say about that non-conference strength of schedule? It feels pretty strong.
Who is this again?
Oklahoma State, sorry.
Oklahoma State. Yeah.
They're fine. You're right. They're fine. Number 34 is the non-conference strength of schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fine. So, all right. So you've got Xavier, Creighton, UTRGV, and Notre Dame feel like the bottom four, with Virginia, Kentucky, and Troy kind of as the next four.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Xavier for me would be out right now, even though
Yeah, I don't think the Big East is getting 3.
I don't see it either. And
Yep.
we kind of went through it, and like, yes, they did more than Cal Poly, but still probably not enough to get in.
Yeah, I would agree.
So that would be a team that is removed from last week's field that was in last week.
Yeah.
So one more to cut. Creighton, RGV. I think for me, I like Creighton's body of work just a little better because of the head-to-head series wins against UConn and Xavier.
Yeah.
They're a little lower in the RPI.
Yeah. What have they got other than that? I guess would be my question.
Yeah.
It's 2 weekends.
Took 2 out of 3 at Charleston, who's just outside the top 100. Was coming off not much there really. That random series at Samford on the road that they won in late March. Yeah, I mean, St. Mary's actually finished inside the top 100. They won 2 out of 3 against those guys. So yeah, it's like kind of middle of the pack stuff there. They beat Nebraska midweek, 1-1, 2-1 against Nebraska midweek. Something. Nebraska 64 RPI.
Yeah, I think I do like them ahead of our UTRGV. I was just kind of looking at UTRGV's resume while you were kind of going through Creighton.
Yeah.
I kind of like Creighton's better personally.
Creighton also has a sweep of St. John's, who was for a while,
Mm-hmm.
in the kind of at the top of the league there. So yeah, I just think it. I know it's a borderline RPI, but regular season champ too. With the tie break, like they're the 1 seed in the conference tournament, whereas RGV was the 2 seed in its conference tournament because they lost the head-to-head to SELA. So, I mean, like maybe that league gets the bump from the committee factor, even if it doesn't go to SELA. Like maybe it goes to RGV, but I think we just have to call it as we see it here, and I think Creighton is the answer.
Okay. So one of the things I wanted to check is where does conference RPI figure with those 2 leagues? Southland is 10, Big East is 12.
Oh, that's interesting.
So similar,
Similar. Yeah. Kind of a wash, really.
but yeah.
We had RGV in last week. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we certainly weren't expecting both they and Southeastern to fall on their face.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least one of them get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
So we're adding 3 at-larges. Notre Dame. Well, are we adding a 4th? I see Notre Dame, Oklahoma State, and Creighton come in. Oh, who am I forgetting? I'm forgetting somebody that we added.
Well, we have we have Houston Christian before where it was Southeastern.
Right. So I just have them kind of taking that at-large spot.
Yep.
But we still had 2 bids in the Southland. So teams that they're out.
Oh, okay.
The teams that are out from last week are Iowa, Western
Mhm.
Kentucky, Xavier. Oh, but Xavier is replaced by Creighton. Iowa, Western Kentucky, Xavier, and UTRGV. Teams that we had in our field last week that are out now.
Okay.
So I guess Iowa was in as an auto last week. So Oregon replaces Iowa as an auto.
Okay. Well, all right, folks, that's our field. So the last 4 would be our UTRGVs, Xavier, I guess Western Kentucky and Iowa. You could maybe talk me into Cal Poly with those. That it's coming from that group.
Yeah, I would have Cal Poly, I think, ahead of Iowa at this point.
Okay. All right. And then our 4 to watch was Southeastern, Michigan.
Sure.
And Washington or Kennesaw or A&M.
I mean, maybe Indiana.
Okay.
Indiana's actually just beat Michigan.
And then our last 4 would have been who? It would have been Creighton.
Virginia, Oklahoma State, or
Notre
Kentucky.
Dame. Notre Dame was definitely one of the ones.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's right. We had them in.
Yeah, probably
Troy or Kentucky or Oklahoma State would all be on the kind of on the radar here, but
okay.
So
all right,
Creighton,
we'll clean that up. But
yeah, please. Creighton, Notre Dame, Virginia,
in either Kentucky or Oak State. Troy. You want to go Troy here?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Or Oklahoma State. I mean, whichever you like there.
Yeah. So that's our field. This was a lot harder this week. That's the immediate thought. And as the week goes on, you're going to have upsets in conference tournaments. You have a lot of spots where you can have stolen bids. We've already seen a potential one in the Southland. We're going to see others. What if Northeastern loses? What if UTSA loses? What if you have a wild Sun Belt winner or something like that? So I do feel like this is going to be one of those crazy weeks because the talent is dispersed outside of the top leagues. I think they're pretty wide open. And I think that's where the chaos is going to hit us. Guys, any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I think the hosting race to me also feels very fascinating at this point because you got, a bunch of teams that it feels like are still very much in the mix here. And, we wound up kind of going with Clemson, UCLA, Southern Miss, TCU, Georgia Tech there. I mean, I don't feel like any of those teams are slam dunks right now as we head into conference tournaments. And then you got the teams right outside there, like DBU, and you got the multiple SEC teams, Alabama and Ole Miss, and even Tennessee. Should they make a run in Hoover? Like they got the same record as Bama, and then you got Florida, right? Like so, you got kind of 4 SEC teams just kind of lurking there, waiting to be separated. I think in Hoover, and this is where the conference tournament takes on. People wonder like, how do you kind of weight the conference tournament? Like you can't just throw out the regular season and just go to the conference tournament. Well, you're right. But like, if you got 4 teams that are basically in a dead heat, this is where they can separate themselves at the buzzer is with a really strong performance in the conference
lasting impression, right? The last time people see you. Yeah, Kendall.
Yeah, I mean, y'all kind of covered it, but I mean, Florida State for me is an interesting team. You know, we had them as the 11th seed, and you know, if Florida State goes on a big run this week, you know, let's say Oregon also goes on a run, which we have them as a number 8 national seed. You know, does Florida State move back in the top 8? Florida State's the team I kind of had my eye on throughout the week at the ACC tournament.
Yeah. And we'll be back later this week as all the games continue. We'll update our last 4, basically the bubble, as the week goes on, and then we'll do some subsequent fields throughout the week. Do want to thank Academy Sports and Cobus Boots, our sponsors. Can't do this without you guys, so we're really appreciative of that. And then can't wait. We've got tournament weekend. You got some new formats. The single elimination. What's that going to look like? Joe Healy and I will be in Hoover. Aaron and Bradley will be in ACC land. It's going to be really interesting because those are the 2 16. You know, all 16 teams are in there with single elimination.
Yep. And the same is true of Big 12, right? Same format, if I'm not mistaken. Where Eric Swanson is going to be. I think they have the same format in the conference tournament.
Yeah, Runes and Eric will be there.
Yeah, Runes and Eric there. We've got Shotgun. I think he's going to the Big West, if I'm not mistaken.
First ever tournament, right? Or first in
exactly.
Yeah, I think it is their first ever tourney.
I think we'll have I can't remember what the deal is with Burke and Patrick, but pretty sure we're gonna have coverage of the Big Ten.
Yeah, they'll be in Omaha. One of them will be in Omaha. I think Patrick's going to Omaha.
Yeah, I think so too. Jared Morris gonna start, I think, at the American and then hit up some ASUN. So you know, blanket coverage. D1Baseball,
Joe will be at Sunbelt for I think a day or 2, right?
Yeah.
So Joe will be in Montgomery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a lot of coverage this week. We'll be back also next Sunday night for our final. I don't think we're going to do another full NerdCast before the Sunday night show, right? If I'm not mistaken,
it's hard to make time for them. Yeah.
Right. So this will be the last NerdCast until our Selection Eve show, which is always our biggest show of the year. That will be done live Sunday night as we put together our field. Looking forward to it, boys. Mark, thank you for all you do for the game.
It's so much fun in it, and this time of year, I mean, what's better than this? This is just this is what it's all about. And with that, we'll talk to you next pod.